We're back. Season 5, Episode 15, Rarity Investigates. This is the noir episode where Detective Rarity has to go and investigate a great mystery about Rainbow Dash, who has been framed for trying to get rid of Spitfire in order to gain her position on... Look, it's the detective episode. It's Rarity Investigates. Okay, what do you want from me? One moment. Ah! Oh my god. Hopefully I didn't screw that thing. Are we still here? Are we here? Oh my god, we might not be here. Hang on. Yes, the Shadow's Spade. Here we are. So, Ascalon. There we go. And... God, I don't know what it's called. So I liked this episode, obviously, but before we really get going, we never actually rated Rarity's something. The previous one, Candlelight Boutique. So what do we think of Candlelight Boutique, really quick, before we move forward, and while I try to find this file? Because it was a good episode. Where the heck is this stupid thing? Is it under T? No, is it under S? There it is. It is under S. Yay, I found it. Okay. Because Candlelight Boutique was awesome. It did a lot right. And it didn't really mess up much, in my opinion. It also gave us plenty to talk about, too. Yeah, most Rarity episodes are good, and I don't just say that because I'm totally Rarity. Of the main six. What are we thinking? Ah, screw it. I don't even know what I'm debating. Red it is. It's a red episode. Rarity plus Twilight. That's an interesting concept. Yeah, sorry for the delay in going live, by the way. I actually had a tech issue, which I still have not yet solved. I may have to pry open the old computer again to get that fully solved. I'm not sure why it's being such an issue, but whatever. New computer problems. And I have this headache is getting worse, not better. Anyways, let's talk about this episode. So we have a wah-wah right off the beginning. So that's cute. We also see the Shadow Spade. Now, I kind of wish that Shadow Spade had actually been introduced to the series before this, because that would be awesome. Unfortunately, this is, to my knowledge, the first time it's even referenced. It would have been kind of cool if it was just something Rarity mentions in the background in previous episodes, leading to it actually coming up in this one, but not a big complaint. So, we have the two ambitious ponies side by side. We have Rarity and we have Rainbow Dash. They're not the only two ambitious ones. As we said before, Twilight's kind of on her career path. Fluttershy has her own ambitions, but these are the two big ones. These are the two that had a very clear career-level goal that they were reaching for, and that they are still in the middle of going through. Which, as weird as it sounds, makes that kind of a neat fit, I think. Also, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be completely wrong, so please feel free to correct me on this, this is one of the only times we see a strong Rarity and Rainbow-focused episode. We don't see a lot of the two paired up alongside each other. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, Rainbow Dash needs to stop crashing into things. There's apparently one in Season 8, so that's cool. Sorry, I keep checking over here to make sure the camera's still right, and everything's still good on that front. But anyways, so this is once again another reason why I was praising the boutique and how it's a bit of a shift in the status quo. Because the reason, and it's actually stated in this episode, flat out, so this isn't just me analyzing, the reason why this is a Rarity and Rainbow episode is because Rarity is there. Why is Rarity there? Because she's still setting up the boutique, which she just set up the previous episode. So not only do we have continuity, which is always nice, but what we have is the specific reason for the continuity, which is her being there. This is what I was talking about, though. This opens up storytelling potential. It could have been any other pony. She could have just invited a pony, but it was Rarity because Rarity was already present. Sense make? This is what I mean by how having this kind of a thing offers up new potential for storytelling. Yeah, exactly. It's not just her bringing someone. It's, oh, hey. Oh, I haven't updated this in a while. Hang on. There we go. Save. So, that's cool. Next thing I wanted to mention. Dragon cut versus hoof polished. Forgive me for being a world builder here, but I like to think that, like, I like to think of what that actually means. So we got gemstones. Well, what does dragon cut mean? So there's two possibilities there. Either it's cut by a dragon or it's cut like a dragon. So by a dragon is probably unlikely given stuff we will find out in the future and stuff they've already hinted at already. Not a lot of strong dragon-pony relations. So what does cut like a dragon mean? Well, considering how crude and coarse they look, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That dragon cut is basically, there's a real-life term for that kind of gem cutting, and I can't remember it, but it's when it's just chunk, and it's just like a chunk of crystallized gem, right? As, you know, yeah, more jagged, yeah. There is a term for that in real life, I can't think of it, as opposed to when you really polish it to a sheen and actually carve and chunk it out into something more, in like a specific shape or whatever, which would probably be hoof polished. I'm probably putting too much thought into this, but I do like my world building, so what do you want from me? Either way, she then decides to compliment the guy to get him to do a little bit more work for her. Now, he did screw up, so it makes sense. Or rather, at least the delivery person, or excuse me, the person she bought it from screwed up. But I find myself thinking about that line. Nobody minds a compliment. That's a pretty manipulative thing to say, but she says it so innocently, I don't think she necessarily means it in a manipulative way. Innocently manipulative? I mean, that is a thing. To manipulate someone without meaning to, or without malicious intent. Food for thought. So this is when they go to the event, and it, you know, it's the event. It's cool. Everything's cool there. We see her first costume, which is the long dress with the bracers, like that. Rarity would ironically have pretty high wisdom score, I think. Relatively middle intelligence score. Low strength, obviously. Low dexterity. But, no, I take that back. Low strength, decent dexterity, and high charisma. First outfit's pretty cool looking. It's kind of neat. I like it. I'm just commenting on them as we go. Is it just me, or do the grilled vegetables actually look really good? Is that just me? Like... Yeah, see, the problem is the magic thing doesn't quite fit D&D standard stats. That's why I was thinking wisdom for her specifically. You know, clerical casting kind of a thing. It also helps with her perception, which she is pretty apropos at. As opposed to Twilight, who have a much higher int and a much lower whiz. Because not only is she more of a wizard-type caster, but she also has far more book knowledge and construction of mind thought, and much, much less... ability to pay attention, you know, much less perception. And Starlight has high whiz and high int, but substantially worse charisma, ironically. But we'll talk about that much, much later. And yeah, it's your grilled veggies. I'm trying to find my notes. Grilled veggies. So Wind Rider gets introduced. I do find it interesting that his coat is exactly the same as Rainbow Dash's. The color of his skin, whatever you want to call that, is the exact same shade of blue as Rainbow's. I'm pretty sure that's on purpose. But we'll talk more about that in a minute. Of course, naturally, Rainbow is completely starstruck by him. Just, oh my god. You know. And I bring that up because Rainbow... We've talked about this so many times. Rainbow's at 1 HP when it comes to her self-esteem, right? She doesn't have bad self-esteem in the strictest sense of the word. She has very weak self-esteem. That's her problem. She has problems... She has the thing where anything will crack her self-esteem in half. I bring that up because in many occasions, and in fact it happens twice in this episode, Rainbow is more than willing to defer to someone else under the right circumstances, right? And you see this. There's this bit where other people are telling her she's awesome, and her reaction is, I mean, I guess, but I'm nowhere near as good as he is. Like, he's amazing. I'm paraphrasing, but she does mention that right there in the ball. There's also, of course, the bit where we have two little bits of foreshadowing. There's a rules of mystery construction. I forget what the thing is called, but this episode actually follows pretty much all of them, which I find interesting. There are two bits of foreshadowing. One, the silk stains, and it's extremely hard to get stains out of silk. That'll be important later. And two, the fact that he does the under his breath. Just kind of the little half chuckle. Even at the time, I remember looking at that being like, that's a weird reaction, but whatever. He's probably just brushing it off, you know. I didn't really think much of it, I'll admit it. Fluttershy has 1 billion HP. This then leads to costume number 2, a very orange... This is actually probably my favorite costume, second favorite costume, because it's got little subtle details to it. It's a primarily orange aspect. However, it's also got orange and lavender highlights. There's a little orange feather and a little lavender feather right next to each other in her hat. And it's tied forward together with this kind of scarf thing in front, one strand of which is orange, one strand of which is lavender. Just nice little combination thing. I just want to comment on it. Anyways, so, you know, Rainbow's like super happy about, you know, being able to thing. And this is just kind of Rarity being awesome here. You noticed this, right? She, I didn't notice that, but you're right, Braven, absolutely. She's really a good friend in this whole episode, you know. Oh, I'm going to be sitting on the bench being bored, and Rarity's like, no, I'll hang out with you. Gives it a little bit of the sunblock. I couldn't think of the name of it. Gives it the sunblock. Sorry, this headache is really bad. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of pushing through it here. So, sunblock. And just watching her. At one point, Rainbow's really excited just to let her have this, darling. It's okay. She deserves this. Now, there's a tiny little note here which is actually really cool. This is the first time I really noticed the foreshadowing, my first time watching this episode. There's this bit where Rainbow is charging forward, and she sees Rarity, and she's just like, hey, Rarity! And as she's doing that, she unintentionally, and without even meaning to, outpaces Windrider. Windrider looks angry. Like, not upset, just angry, like, Hurr! Charges forward, and Rainbow catches herself, like, oh, sorry, and then gets back into position. That 1/2 second scene is a great example of showing and not telling. Forgive me for zooming in the camera on this one scene very, very briefly, as briefly as I can. First of all, she's happy that Rarity's there. She's happy that her friend's there, because Rainbow's the kind of person who loves to share in her own accomplishments. We've talked about this before. It's not enough for her to win or have the trophy or whatever. She's got to have someone to share it with, right? And that's been a consistent part of her character. So that's, you know, her showing off, and even despite the flaying thing, just being like, hey, Rarity, you know, that really adds to that. And it shows how much she appreciates Rarity's presence. The second thing, of course, is the fact that the moment that Rainbow realizes that she is outpacing her idol, she immediately and without hesitation holds back so that it falls back into step with him. And, of course, the obvious thing, the fact that he is all, I hate you, and thus, you know, the anger display there, which certainly shows a lot about his mentality in total and immediate contrast to hers. So, the mother walks in. It's like, oh my god, where's your mother? Hey, where's... Blah, blah, blah. The first person to accuse Rainbow is Windrider. The first time watching it, that was the exact moment I suspected him. The fact that he's the one. Nobody else even mentions it, but he's like, no, it was totally you. He's even got his arms folded while he does it. So, this is when I have a note in my notes, and I'm not going to go into this too much, but guilty until proven innocent. Yeah. Anyways. So Rainbow, what's interesting about Rainbow's thing here is that she basically destroys her own case constantly. Yes, it is Melodol. Hang on, Von Falkenstein. Give me a sec. I'll come right back to that. She is so innocently destroying of her own case in a way that so obviously telegraphs how innocent she is. It's funny to me. I imagine most of the rest of the people aren't good judges of character, despite the fact that they've known her and worked with her for years at this point, because, well, this leads neatly into the thing that really pisses me off. Everyone except for Rarity is just like, you totally did it, and we're gonna kick you out of the Wonderbolts. What? Am I the only person that bugs the crap? It's the only real flaw in this whole episode, is that they all automatically assume guilty until proven innocent. And yeah, it is. It's an Ace Attorney thing. It really is. It's like, no, we have no reason to really believe that you are this horrible murderer, because it's always murder in Ace Attorney is, but we're going to totally have you executed or put into prison for life, depending on the case, if you can't not only prove yourself innocent, but do so by finding the actual guilty verdict, or finding the actual guilty party. Don't worry, just like in an Ace Attorney game, the guilty person is literally like 5 feet to the right. So that works out. Yeah. Now, I don't know. That whole thing bugs me. Let's just move past it for a second. Yeah, I know, right, Maladol? So, Rainbow Dash was convicted of larceny. Was she guilty? No. Celestia comes down. We need to have a talk. Let's move past that, because again, I don't have anything to say about it other than, excuse me. Looking at my notes. So we go to costume number 3, the best costume of the episode. Carmen Sanda Rarity. She looks really awesome. I love that style of outfit. In fact, the coat I'm using right now is of that style. It's just, men's version instead of woman's version. Absolutely love that outfit. I'm not going to gush anymore. We're done. So then we get the presentation thing going on, and this is going to be through the rest of the episode. The saturation has been changed around a little bit. The gamma has been shifted. We got the grayscale black and white thing going on, and of course the audio has that kind of muted, higher compression, lower bitrate quality thing going on. And what's best about that, of course, is they shift in and out of it too. Like they just apply a filter effectively over it, and they kind of shift in and out for several scenes in the future. And I love it. It's awesome. Anyways, great stuff. Great stuff. I just wanted to gush there for a moment. So she goes. We get our next bit of foreshadowing. She picks up the envelope and she sniffs it first thing. And then she finds the actual bit of Rainbow Dash's hair, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, no!" This is probably a good time to mention that I totally do what Rarity does in this episode in real life. More evidence that I am, of the main 6, that I am Rarity. I said I'd mention this later. Because, yeah, I kind of do cinematography, blocking, and camera usage in my mind as I'm going through a scene, aka just something I'm doing in real life at that point in time. I don't do the narration all that much, but, it's because I don't like using narration when it comes to film. But, just picture it, right? Walking down the thing and looking around the streets. He notices that thing over there. Is it ready to cross yet? No, he's going to be safe this time. He knows exactly what the consequences are of crossing at the wrong time. Moving on. So she calls attention to the curtains. This is actually classical misdirection here. Because there's 2 types of misdirection. 2 types of classic misdirection. One is you're doing something over here to distract them so they don't notice this over here. The other is you call attention to the thing for the wrong reason. So you do pull their attention over here, but you're like, oh my god, look what's going on with my fingers, and you're not supposed to notice the glove, for example, or something similar to that. That's a terrible example, but you do get the idea. And so they call attention to the curtains, but it's because, oh my god, they're so cute and they're so fluffy. And the presentation also serves as a misdirection, because it's played off as a joke. Either way, this then leads to the guard sequence with the big interrogation scene. I love that. I'm sorry. I love it. I love it. Rainbow Dash is, of course, trying to be bad cop without really meaning to. She's just, you've got to tell me this stuff. Oh, God. Maybe I did it. Maybe I did it when I sleep. Do you know what I do when I sleep? Because I don't. I love it. Sorry. You'll notice that the guards didn't volunteer the cake and the break information until specifically pressed on that. That's interesting. Very true to life, though. Most people don't think to mention relevant information until they're specifically prompted to, either because they are being deliberately misleading, or, far more likely, because it didn't occur to them to, because most people don't have that kind of mindset. Rarity, thankfully, does actually have that kind of mindset, so she mentions it, and she flatters them. We find out that there are 345 bolts in the ceiling, which he has counted 293 times. What kind of cake? Frosting or chocolate frosting or vanilla? Vanilla. I don't know what I'm going to add there. And of course, then Rarity accidentally monologues out loud. I think I've done that. Not often. I usually catch myself immediately, but yeah, so external monologue. Anyways, then we go to costume 4. This is your classic 20s style thing with the little polka dots and the you know what, you don't care about this. It's very cool looking. It's very classic. Maybe 50s would be another era for that. Very classical. She's even got a stylized mane with little ponytail. So then she goes and she finds the place. And of course, as is usually true in these things, there's one place that makes that kind of cake. And oh, they're out. Yes, someone came by. I love the little bit where she describes the pony, and then, you know, the pony, the description in her imagination starts mouthing and animating as Rainbow starts talking. Yes, that's a good example of that, S.A. Ross. So then we find out that the scarf had chocolate on it. Huh. This is a good time to mention something. I've already pointed out the perception thing. We have a bit of a Pinkie Pie situation here. Because what Rarity is doing is being absolutely correct, but most people don't understand what she's talking about because they lack the context. Out of context, it looks like she's just focusing on the fashion-y stuff. The scarf, the cake, the dresses, the curtain, right? But the problem is, she is focusing on the right things and for the right reason. It's just, she's phrasing it the wrong way, and other people, in this case Rainbow, lacks the context of that. That's why I call it the Pinkie Pie thing, because most of the time, when Pinkie Pie says something, she's right. And there's logic to it, it's just people without context just look at it like... So... this leads to them walking through the rain. Gotta have that scene. The pony and the trumpet. And this, of course, leads to Thunder Crash! And, of course, it goes to black and white during the Thunder Crash, which is awesome. And she accuses Wind Rider. Now, I kind of already suspected that the first time I watched this. But you'll notice, and I noticed this the second time I watched this, the moment he's accused, his reaction is... So, he's guilty. The way he reacts to that is someone who is prepping a response. Now, not everyone reacts in the same way, but someone who is actually innocent will be like, what? Or, what's wrong with you? How could you even say that? Or, God, that's insanity. I'd never do that. A guilty person tends to either try and compose themselves, or rather than being emotionally outraged, will deliberately attack the accusation and the source of the accusation, right? So, he just kind of stonewalls a little bit and it's like, yeah, okay. This leads to the big reveal scene, and my personal favorite thing, where, you know, she's running through all the evidence. I've already kind of covered this. All of this was foreshadowed. But the best part is when she finally accuses him, you sent that letter, and you are just as guilty of sending that letter as you are of ruining that scarf. Because, of course, she would be upset about the scarf being ruined, right? So, let's talk about Villainy. So, yeah, he talks about, yes, fine, I did it. This is what Villainy tends to be in Equestria. Now, I don't want to sound dismissive, because what he did is not right or good by any sense of the word. But it is worth noting that he, if this is Villainy, if this is what a criminal is like in this realm, can I move there? Because in real life, this wouldn't even be a misdemeanor, you know? In real life, this is like up here. And it goes down and down and down from this. Now, this is not me complaining. It just once again emphasizes the varying severity of things. Because this is a big deal within context. This is a big deal for them. And what he did is wrong. But this is also why I emphasize so much that Equestria is better than real life. Because that's nothing. That is absolutely nothing. It's the Pokemon thing, right? But I don't want to get into that again. Point remaining. Point remaining. He's like, sometimes you gotta play dirty to be the best. Now, what I like about that, and they don't call this out, which is what I like about it, is that is actually continuity. So we're going to add to the continuity counter here really quick. If you're... my mouse is being weird all of a sudden. If you remember, did it not? No, it's there. Okay, whatever. I'm not sure I want to be a pony. In fact, I'm pretty sure I don't want to be a pony. But, God, can I just not live in the real world anymore? Because this place sucks. Hang on, let me grab a knife here. There we go, we're good. I'm out. The continuity and display here is the fact that was actually a point of the last... so, hang on, God, I'm sorry, I've got this headache and it's so hard to think straight. One of the last major Wonderbolts episodes we had, there was a big point about how the Wonderbolts were totally cool with, I can't remember her name, and everything she was doing to get ahead, because as long as you get the results, that's what mattered. You remember that? And there was this big point about Rainbow refusing to go along with that, and effectively resigning. Lightning Dust, that was her name. And then ended up coming back and blah, blah, blah. Now, there were issues with that episode. I don't want to praise it too much. But the point of that episode that I'm dragging into this episode is this episode gives more context to that episode. What this episode does is it helps frame that as the idea that was the norm up until Rainbow, up until that episode. And once Rainbow did that, that kind of stopped being the norm. This helps to explain why someone like Windwider can exist. Why for him and what he does, it's totally acceptable to be dirty in order to be the best. And how that was just the usual. This actually also came up a second time. This is why I say that there was issues with that. Because that came up during the Season 4 lead up to the Equestria Games episode. Where they tried to connive Rainbow into being on their team instead of Rainbow not being on their team. You remember that? So that's twice now that has come up in previous episodes. My point being, with that now makes all of Windrider's actions make sense. So hopefully, between these two incidents, maybe now it will stop being the norm. I don't know. I don't remember the Wonderbolts actually coming up after this, so I will see, I suppose. So Rainbow shows who she really is in this final bit, because they're like, okay, Rainbow, we need you to fly in this. And Rainbow says, no, Spitfire shouldn't have to do this. And so she goes off to get Spitfire. Let me say that again real quick, in case you missed that. When given exactly what she wants, the one thing she has been desirous for several days, the one thing that is so awesome to her that she was having dreams of how awesome it would be, she immediately and unhesitatingly throws it away because it wouldn't be fair. Because it wouldn't be right. She instead decides to go and help out the other person. Now, Rainbow Dash, loyalty, etc. But it stands to reason. This is still her overall approach. Yeah, it is even presented as a decision for her. It was like, Rainbow, we need you to do this. And she was like, no. She wasn't given a choice. She simply decided. Yeah, this is Rainbow Dash in a nutshell right here. It is exceptionally to the point, really. It also is interesting because it ties into that earlier point where she will, despite her, self-esteem thing, or despite her bragging thing, nevertheless, when it comes down to it, she'll put someone else in front of her. Like I mentioned several times throughout this episode. Quick aside before we cut off. I'm actually amused at how Windrider is surprised that he is stripped of rank and position. This is more fuel to the fire of what I mentioned earlier about the continuity thing. The idea that what he did was so normal and acceptable that it didn't even occur to him that he would actually be, punished for what he did. I get the really strong impression that everything he went... that in his era and before, what he did was so standard operating procedure that he wouldn't have actually suffered any consequence for it. He would have just gone ahead and flown in the thing, and that would have been the end of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but again, given the other 2 episodes I referenced, and this one, I'm leaning that way. Yeah, his career's over. He should be quite... So yeah, honestly, this is a superb episode, almost entirely in its presentation, but also because it's a great Rarity episode, and it is also a great Rainbow episode. And the combination of the 2 works beautifully, I think. It's a sad thing that we have gotten so little of this particular combo. You got 6 characters. That's a lot of possible combinations of characters. It's weird that we haven't had, that some of them are so underrepresented. But anyways, I can't give this one purple, I'm afraid. That is a shame, because I would love to, but I can't because of the major flaw I mentioned earlier. And it doesn't quite hit that extra emotional impact of a purple episode. So we'll give this one the wrong color. There we go. We'll give this one red. Like so. So, let's chop off the local recording.